Radical Red is not only one of the best ROM hacks, but one of the best Pokemon games ever made. Boss battles have a huge difficulty spike, every Pokemon through Gen 9 is included, and new abilities were even created. But can I beat this incredibly challenging game as a randomized hardcore Nuzlocke? Before jumping in, let me know which Pokemon you think deserves to be buffed. Maybe they were in this game. Also, this entire run was live streamed right here on my YouTube channel, so if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe so you can catch future streams. With all that said, let's get into it. As the game begins, we select a full species and ability randomizer, meaning we could see anything from a truant Weedle to a huge power Arceus on any given route. Our starters turn out to be Hatterene, Shuppet, and Gimmighoul, so it's a pretty obvious choice as I selected the only fully evolved Mon, Hatterene. Since this was in the grass type slot, our rival will have a Charizard down the line, but for the lab fight he gets a randomized Sentret that we body. On the first few routes, we catch a Kricketot who immediately evolves into Kricketune, Noibat, Frigibax, Nimble, Unknown, and Mime Jr., who are all pretty lackluster for now, and the saving grace of the early game, Caparajah. We did also unfortunately fail a Gible encounter as it struggled itself to death, but overall, pretty bad randomizer luck here. That brings us to the first boss battle of the run, Brock. He kicks things off with an Alolan Geodude as I send in Caparajah. A turn 1 Heavy Slam will always take the Electric Rock down to Sturdy, where it then drops our speed with Bulldoze. I swap Hatterene in, who unfortunately has Sandstream, boosting the special defensive rock types, and she's hit by a second Bulldoze. Next turn, the Swole Rock self-destructs, proccing our Oranberry, and Brock brings out Onix. Rock Tomb only does 9 damage to our starter, so she can hit back with a Confusion before pivoting through Titan to Kricketune on a guaranteed Bulldoze. Grassy Surge also lowers the damage of Ground-type moves, so our Bug takes basically nothing from Onix. We collect Mega Drain next turn as Varoom hits the field, getting its air balloon popped. Noibat can then be used as a safe pivot back to our Elephant, who bulldozes twice for the knockout. Archon is next, who continues the ground-type assault, but a single Heavy Slam one-shots, leaving just Onix at about half health. Triangle can then return to eat Bulldoze, survive Rock Tomb, and win the fight with Mega Drain. On our way to Cerulean, we add Skarmory, Seviper, Diglett, and Butterfree to the squad. With the new level cap at 27, Diglett, Mime Jr., and Nimble all evolve, the latter having Imposter, which I will say I heavily underrated early in this run. I also fish up a Dreadnought, which will be our last encounter before our first true rival fight. Caparajah and Dreadnought should be able to take on his whole team as we use Heavy Slam turn 1 to knock out the Curlia after taking almost no damage from Psybeam. I can then swap Dreadnought in against Charmeleon, who tanks Flame Burst and Thunder Punch to kill with Rock Throw plus Aqua Jet. Staravia is next, who, even after lowering our attack with Intimidate, goes down to Rock Throw, leaving chat with only a Pawniard. I was planning on tanking 3 attacks with Titan and finishing the fight with 2 Bulldozes, but getting my Citrus Berry knocked off may change things. I also completely missed that this thing has Defiance, so now it's at +2 attack and I need to make a switch. Dugtrio will still be faster after a low sweep drop, meaning I get a free swap to Seviper since the AI goes for Sucker Punch. Since my Snake has Hustle, we aren't guaranteed to hit here, but I take the risk as Night Slash does enough damage to get us through this fight. That was a good recovery, but if we want to win this run, I'm gonna have to be cleaner in my battle prep. On our way to Bill's house, we catch a Gastrodon and Mantine, giving us some very solid water types. This takes us to an optional fight against Bugsy. In this game, you can fight the Johto gym leaders scattered throughout the region for additional items that are sure to be helpful. For beating the Bug-type user, we get the TM for U-turn, so let's see how it goes. Turn 1, Dreadnought can use Protect to nullify Lockix's first impression. Following a strong Leech Life, we can Rock Tomb and Aqua Jet for the knockout, bringing in Scyther. Rock Smash brings Snapper down to 13 HP, and thanks to his Contrary, we actually get a defense boost here. A Charty Berry helps the Bug flying type survive Rock Tomb, but with such little health left, Aqua Jet takes KO number 2. Next up is the evolution, Scizor. Bugsy always wants to Bullet Punch here for the KO, so I can go to one of our new additions, Riot, to tank the move. After an Aerial Ace, we do 50% with Water Pulse, proccing the Steel type Citrus Berry. Rock Smash then brings us low and gets a defense drop, so after one more Water Pulse, I need to swap to Skarmory, who takes the next. Our bird outspeeds and pecks the Bug to death, leaving only Ladian to deal with. Knowing a Thunder Punch will be used, I pivot through Copperajah to Mantine, tanking the following Drain Punch. Then, thanks to a Wakan Berry, we survive the next Electric Fist and lower the Ladybug's speed with Rock Tomb. From here, a quad-effective Wing Attack is all it takes to drop Ladian and win the battle. Gym fight number 2 is against Misty and her water types, leading Frogadier against my Copperajah. Turn 1, the Frog Grass Knots for minimal damage as we bulldoze to cover a flip turn to Clodsire. Since there's no switch, we can tank one more attack and finish the lead off with Heavy Slam. The Ace Starmie is next, and as I swap to Mr. Mime, we're confused by Water Pulse. This means Skarmory has to come in to tank Psyshock before going back to our Mime, only to be confused again. This time I decide to risk hitting myself in order to get Light Screen up, but of course I'm punished for my gamble. My backup is to use Hatterene, hoping she can outlast the Starfish with Drain Kiss Recovery. After 2 hits, Starmie is low enough for me to bring Kricketune in. Triangle avoids getting confused by Water Pulse, then pounces to lower speed as Misty uses Recover. This brings Starmie's Analytic into play since we now outspeed, but wanting to preserve her ace, the Gym Leader switches into Clodsire. Titan returns to the field on a Rock Tomb, and once I'm sure the Wooper evolution will use Recover, I can bring Hatterene in. A single Psyshock from Bell drops the Mudfish, and now Floatzel hits the field. Mantine can now come in to eat a not very effective Water Pulse from the Weasel. Now we Bullet Seed with 3 hits doing more damage than a Wing Attack, and tank Hidden Power Grass. After popping our Citrus Berry, we unfortunately only 2-shot, so we take another 15 damage before getting the kill. Now it's back to Starmie, who should never KO Propel, unless it gets a crit. Sadly, we take our first death, but Triangle can come back in and hit 2 pounces for the win, as all Misty can do is click Recover. Between here and our next important battle, we get a lot of encounters. First is a Krogunk, who'll be very important later on. We then catch Hitmontop, Sigilif, and Archon, who evolves at our new level cap of 34 before arriving in Vermilion. Here we fish up a Stantler. Outside the SSN we catch Omastar. I had the wrong screen up when I caught Vulpix and Roselia, and our final encounter is an egg we hatch into a Makihita. Even after evolving into Harayama, I didn't think my team had great answers for Lieutenant Surge, so I progressed a bit towards Celadon, picking up a Salandit who evolves into Salazzle. Our last encounter in Rock Tunnel is a Claydol who unfortunately self-destructs. I don't want to deal with the randomized trainers going forward, so I decide to buckle down and evolve Vulpix into Ninetales and Roselia into Roserade, then give the Electric Gym Leader my best shot. Surge leads Pincurchin against my Roserade with Adaptability, making stab attacks 2 times effective instead of 1.5 times. This means a single Giga Drain gets KO number 1, baiting in a Lowland Raichu. I'm expecting a Psyshock, so I go to Bell, but to my surprise the Surge Surfer Nasty plots this turn. After boosting its special attack to +4, we Drain Kiss, bringing the Pikachu Evo below half health. Discharge would now KO Hatterene, so I swap Gastrodon in to negate the move. We always survive 1 attack, so I lock in Bulldoze, but the Lieutenant actually swaps out to his Belly Bolt, getting rid of its Shucca Berry. Roserade can return to the field to tank HP Grass, then Giga Drain brings the Amphibian into the red as it Thunder Waves. Even paralyzed, we still outspeed, so Thorn claims another victim and the Ace Manectric comes in. I switch into Thwomp as we see the first Mega of the game, getting another Intimidate drop and hitting us with Flame Burst. After a Fake Out, I can bring Riot in on Charge Beam, then let our Rindoberry pop to an HP Grass and Bulldoze Manectric. At -1, it'll be slower than Dugtrio, who also has a Rindoberry to survive HP Grass, then kill with its own Bulldoze. Hirayama comes back in to take a Mach Punch from Palmot, then Fake It Out. I make a dumb play bringing Gastrodon in on Thunder Punch and then going back to Thwomp, who gets Drain Punched, canceling out the damage from my earlier Fake Out. After another, Mr. Mime survives the randomly selected Ice Punch, then it's back to Gastrodon on Thunder Punch. Riot has to take a strong Drain Punch here, but then her Bulldoze brings the Gen 9 Mon to -1 speed. Mach Punch triggers Clown Citrus Berry, and since she now outspeeds, we get the kill with Psybeam. Surge now only has his Raichu left, who at low health nasty plots, but we set up Light Screen. This forces the Alolan to set up further as we win the battle with 2 Magical Leaves, surviving a +4 discharge between hits thanks to our screen. With the level cap jumping to 44, we can now evolve a few Mons, getting Noivern, Weirdeer, Toxicroak, and Arctibax. We also catch Electric, Baltoy, and Screamtail, get a gift Piloswine, and hatch a Sevi Blitzel, Fluttermane, and Ninjask. I then evolve the Numons into Electros, Claydol, Mamoswine, and Zebstrika before it's time to battle Erika. Her lead is a Grassy Surge Rillaboom who immediately drops to an Aeroblast from our dragon. Electrode is the fastest thing the grass leader has, so as it uses HP Ice, I go to Ninjask. Although we took massive damage, we can now click First Impression for another one-shot, bringing in Meganium. Roserade can easily deal with the Grass Fairy, shrugging off a Dazzling Gleam and getting the kill with a 4 times effective Sludge. Meowscarada is next up, opting for Knockoff as I swap in my itemless Caparaja. Flower Trick doesn't do enough to 2-shot Titan, so she can take 2, Brick Break, and Heavy Slam for our 4th KO. Last is Venusaur, who Mega Evolves, but a swap to Archeops means Erika wastes her turn with an Earth Power. 2 Dual Wing Beats while taking a Giga Drain from the starter finish this battle, earning us badge number 4. We now gain access to Rocket Hideout, hatching an egg containing a Natu, which we evolve immediately. Here we have our first showdown with Giovanni, who boasts a pretty powerful team. His lead Nidoking is outsped in one shot by a Psychic from Screamtail. Now his ace Kangaskhan hits the field, who Mega Evolves and hits Thwomp with a Parental Bond Fakeout. After I flinched the mother-daughter duo, we're hit hard by Body Slam, but a single close combat gets the kill. Orthworm's Body Press hits Illusion Ninetales for a little less than half its health, and as we go for a Flamethrower KO, the Rocket Ball swaps to his Paldean Tauros Blaze. Rocker takes almost nothing from a 4 times resisted close combat, retaliating with a Psychic to get its second knockout. Honchkrow has Super Luck and a Scope Lens, meaning it's basically guaranteed to crit, so I bring Dreadnought in to tank Drill Peck. Next turn we're Sucker Punched, but a single Rock Slide is strong enough to KO, leaving only Orthworm. I pivot through Fluttermane on a Body Press to Ninetales on an Iron Head, then a single Flamethrower wins us the battle. The cap goes to 56 now, where I can finally evolve Arctobax into Baxcalibur. Our next obstacle is a Totem Marowak, boosting all of its stats by 1 in the beginning of the battle. Typically you'd want something that can get a guaranteed critical hit to one-shot this thing, but I don't have that. Instead, I start by using Thief with Noivern to take away Marowak's Thick Club, lowering its damage output. After a weak Fire Punch, I U-turn to Hariyama on a Shadow Bone. Unfortunately, we're Fire Punched and burned next turn, so Rock Slide doesn't do as much damage as I needed to. Screamtail, however, has a Kasib Berry to reduce Ghost-type damage, but a crit Shadow Bone still does about 50%. I go to Zebstrika from here, surprisingly on a Thunder Punch, which allows me to Volt Switch to Mercy, also holding a Kasib Berry. At less than half health, a Shadow Ball from our special attacking powerhouse finishes the Marowak off and allows us to advance to Silphco. There are a few big battles here, and the first one is another rival fight. He leads Staraptor, who gets obliterated by a Fluttermane Thunderbolt. His Charizard is gonna Mega Evolve into Y and set up Sun, but I forgot to teach my Archeops Rock Slide, so I need to change my plan a bit. Screamtail takes more damage than I thought from Flamethrower, so I go to Noivern on the next. As I click Acrobatics, we actually see a switch to King Gambit. Hariyama then hits the field and the Bisharp Evolution Swords dances, but we're faster and a close combat kills even through a Chople Berry. This Jumpluff has Aerolate, meaning its Double Edge is Flying type and Miles resists. We then Ice Beam to destroy the Grass Flying type, bringing in Azumarill. Knowing that he'll go for Liquidation, I can bring in my Storm Drain Fluttermane to go to +1 special attack. Now it just takes 2 Thunderbolts to drop the Water type and Megazard, making for a pretty clean win. We then get an Igglybuff from the Sylph employee, who we evolve into Wigglytuff. This next battle is arguably top 3 hardest in the game. It's a double battle with Brendan as our partner, meaning we can only bring 3 of our own Pokemon. On top of this, our opponents, Rocket Admins Ariana and Archer, have a Mega Houndoom and Mega Mawile on their teams. The strategy I came up with revolves around Dreadnought getting an attack boost from the lead Incineroar's Intimidate due to Contrary, Hariyama being a Fake Out user with Close Combat and Bulldoze to drop speed, and Fluttermane hopefully switching in on a Water-type attack from Primarina to activate Storm Drain. Brendan's Pokemon have random abilities in this fight, and his Masquerain just happens to roll Adaptability. I Protect, assuming Incineroar wants to fake out my Dreadnought, and then Bug Buzz one-shots Gothitelle thanks to the increased damage. While this seems good for my strategy to work, I actually needed Gothitelle to stay on the field for one more turn, so now things get dicey for me. Golden Go will Focus Blast my slot, so I go to Hariyama, who thankfully avoids the move. Masquerade's Scald just can't one-shot Incineroar, so it does get to parting shot our fighting type, then switch to Primarina. I need to protect this turn since Primarina has Psychic and Dazzling Gleam, and sadly Gholdengo's Shadow Ball drops Masquerade's special defense. It does manage to get a Scald burn before going down to a Dazzle though. Now Brendan brings in his Sceptile with Download, getting a useless attack boost since it only has special moves. I can't swap anything into this duo, so I stay in as Sceptile Mega Evolves and does 50% to Primarina with Mega Drain. Gholdengo then makes it rain for big damage, activating Sceptile's Mega ability Berserk, boosting its special attack. Since the Water Starter went for the single target Psychic to knock us out, Brendan may have a chance to carry us a bit. I bring Dreadnought in and protect as Sceptile kills the Primarina and gets some good recovery. The Gholdengo tried Focus Blasting me again, so that was a great turn for us. Mawile's Intimidate then activates our Contrary again. Sceptile HP fires the now Mega Mawile, but because he didn't KO Gholdengo, we lose Dreadnought to a critical hit Focus Blast and the starter drops to Play Rough. Now it all comes down to Fluttermane and Exploud. We're able to KO the Mawile with Thunderbolt, but Gholdengo's Make It Rain brings us below half health. Exploud gets the kill with Flamethrower plus burn damage, making this a 2v2 against Incineroar and Houndoom. After Houndoom Mega Evolves, the Fire Cat fakes Exploud out, but our Dazzling Gleam gets the kill and does around 40% to the dog. In a stroke of luck, we dodge Heat Wave and Exploud is just barely able to hang on. Dazzling Gleam is now a roll to kill, and I'll let CGA from the past take it from here. It's a roll. I'm faster, it's a roll. I have to click Dazzling Gleam. Yeah. I don't have any other choice here. Oh, please kill. Please. Kill. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Oh my goodness. Well, we narrowly escaped wiping, and our reward is a very hard Giovanni fight. He leads a Hippowdon with Sandstream as I send out Mamoswine, who I forgot to nickname. Turn 1, we change the weather using Snowscape, and the Hippo sets up Stealth Rock. We actually both switch next turn, so it's Roserade versus Garganacl. Energy Ball with our adaptability boost is strong enough to one-shot, so that's one of the bigger threats on the team dealt with. Garchomp comes in, and I correctly predict a Scale Shot, which is negated by Screamtail switching in. I now Ice Beam to get rid of the Ground Dragon's Yache Berry, and after a Swords Dance, Giovanni switches to Kangaskhan to take the next. I Protect on the Fake Out turn, then Toxic the Mega to put it on a timer as it goes to +2 attack with Power Up Punch. I forgot about the rocks as I bring Archeops in to resist the next Body Slam, and he just manages to survive on 1 HP. I then U-turn out to Hitmontop, and luckily the AI's random move ends up being Crunch as Kangaskhan drops the poison damage. Garchomp is back, so Rocker can yet again render Scale Shot useless, and this time our Ice Beam is met by Excadrill. Ninetales takes over half from Rocks plus Ironhead, but she outspeeds for a Flamethrower knockout against the Mole. Yet again, the Land Shark hits the field, but this time it Earthquakes as I go to Screamtail. The boss finally lets Garchomp go down to Ice Beam, then resets the sand with Hippowdon. Mamoswine is always the switch here, being hit hard by Earthquake as she comes in. Thanks to leftovers, we survive a second and can drop the Hippo with a pair of Icicle Crashes. This just leaves Torterra, but being 4 times weak to ice and having low speed, we can Icicle Crash one more time for a knockout and clear the evil team out of Sylph. Our next bout is against Sabrina and her shiny Trick Room team. I lead Caparajah and Kricketune with our grassy terrain being turned off by Indeedee's Psychic Surge. The goal of this fight is to never let her get Trick Room up, X-Scissoring Indeedee and Heavy Slamming Hatterene for 2 turn 1 knockouts. Next out are Gardevoir and Porygon 2, both tracing our Grassy Surge. I'm assuming Sabrina made this move to use Trick Room with both Mons, guaranteeing it goes up. As she Megas Gardevoir, I taunt Porygon 2, who actually Ice Beams Triangle. Since the Mega hasn't moved yet, it's the Trick Room setter, but unfortunately for Sabrina, a single Heavy Slam knocks it out. Bringing Brute Bonnet in over Ursaluna is an interesting play, as Kricketune is still the fastest thing on the field and can one-shot with X-Scissor. After being brought below half by Thunderbolt, we Brick Break the normal type for some solid damage. The Hisuian evolution will always protect during its first turn on the field in order to get a burn from its held Flame Orb. That means I'm free to switch Kricketune into Fluttermane, who eats Ice Beam, and I can Heavy Slam the Porygon to put it in range of one more. Now an Energy Ball plus Brick Break drop Ursaluna, and after a Thunderbolt from Porygon 2, we win the battle with another Energy Ball plus Heavy Slam. In order to get to Fuchsia, we have to take on a gauntlet of weather routes, either snow and sun to the east or sand and rain to the west. I decide my team is better suited for snow and sun, but tragedy strikes on the first sun battle. I switch Hatterene into a random move from Mega Charizard X, assuming it would be Dragon Claw because the AI wouldn't want to intentionally take recoil when it doesn't need to. I was very wrong about this, as a Flare Blitz absolutely obliterates our starter. This was also my only Pokemon who had a weather changing ability, so I had to get creative for the rest of the fights on this route, but I did make it to Fuchsia without any other casualties. I also managed to catch a Flamigo, Ladian, and Larvesta on the way, who evolves into Volcarona. Once in the city, I fish myself up a Pinsir and go south to catch an Execute, which evolves with the Leaf Stone into Executor. Before we can take our next gym leader on, we do have to battle Brendan outside the Safari Zone. He leads Metagross as I send out Ninetales, but thanks to Illusion, he thinks it's Caparaja. In this game, Illusion also boosts power by 30%, so a single Flamethrower gets the one-shot. The Hoenn native now goes to his Ace Sceptile, which once Mega Evolved gains the Dragon typing. Since Flamethrower won't be super effective, I swap to Screamtail as the Lizard Sword stances. I now threaten the Grass Dragon type with Ice Beam, so Brendan goes to Gardevoir, getting Frostbitten by our attack. Titan then comes in to tank Moonblast, and after dodging Focus Blast, she finishes the Psychic Fairy with Heavy Slam. Medicham holds a Choice Scarf and will lock itself into close combat against Caparaja, so I can bring Fluttermane in, who isn't affected by the move. We can then one-shot with Dazzling Gleam, and two more take Exploud out, but it did get a Spadef drop on us with Shadow Ball. Sceptile will always use Bullet Seed since a two-shot kills, so I can pivot through Ninetales to Screamtail on an Earthquake. Rocker does have to survive a Bullet Seed before getting an Ice Beam kill, but we get another 2-spot to leave the Paradoxmon at half. Last is Crawdaunt, who we outspeed in one-shot with a Dazzling Gleam for the win. In version 4.0, you can't fight Koga until rematching the first 3 gym leaders. They all have revamped teams, but since I got through all 3 battles deathless, we're just gonna jump ahead. I actually decide to backtrack to Saffron to battle Chuck in order to get a Focus Sash and Drain Punch. He leads Hitmontop as I send out Archeops. We protect turn 1 in case a Fake Out is used, but the fighting type actually goes right for Triple Axle. Either way, we outspeed next turn for a dual Wing Beat knockout, bringing in Sneasler. Stone Edge doesn't kill us without a crit, so I stay in, hang on through the move, and get another dual Wing Beat KO on Chuck's second Focus Sash mod. The move then proceeds to kill Breloom and Quaquaval before Johto's fighting leader finally goes to Lucario. I bring Ninetales in on an extreme speed, and instead of letting the Aura Dog drop the Flamethrower, Chuck brings Gallade in to take the hit. Screamtail comes in to eat Drain Punch, then gets burned by its held Flame Orb. Thanks to its Flare Boost ability, special attacks do 50% more damage when burned, so after a Night Slash, Dazzling Gleam gets the kill. Now it's back to Lucario, so Ninetales returns to the field, shrugs off a Meteor Mash, and gets the win with Flamethrower. There's also a fight against this kid who really likes Mudkip, where the reward is the Earthquake TM. However, I got sloppy here and ended up losing not only my Volcarona to Bullet Punch, but also my Fluttermane because I didn't realize Mega Swampert had Swift Swim. Easily my worst played battle of the run so far. But it's time for us to pick up the pieces and find a way against the Poisonous Ninja. I'm reminded by chat that I can hatch an egg on Route 23 through the first badge check gate, and a Glimmet, which evolves into Glamora, may be just the mon I need. Blessing ends up being our lead, setting up Stealth Rock as Koga's Swellow Boom bursts us for around a third of our health. After a second resisted attack, we one-shot with Power Gem and Drapion comes in. This thing has a Choice Band, Sniper, which boosts the damage of critical hits, and Wicked Blow, a Dark-type move that always crits. Knowing it'll lock itself into the move, I go to Toxicroak, who takes just under half from it. I can then Fake Out, survive a second attack to Earthquake, and finish this monster off with Sucker Punch. Screamtail is our Greninja answer, taking decent damage from Life Orb boosted Dark Pulse on the switch. Hydro Pump brings us down to 73 HP, but thanks to Flare Boost, the Dazzling Gleam can take the Frog down. Excelgor would typically be a problem because of its speed, but I have something even faster. Dart comes in on a Sludge Bomb, then thanks to Aerolate, Return can one-shot the Gen 5 Speedster. Claydol is our answer for Toxtricity, who Mega Evolves in Boom Bursts. Thanks to a Chillin' Berry and our insane special defense stat, Boom is able to survive more than one of the move. Next turn at 26 HP, we fire off an Earth Power to one-shot, leaving Koga with only an Iron Valiant. Executor is my last healthy team member, but this was always his job. Download gives a special attack boost on entry, but Spirit Break gets the drop, so we're back at neutral. Knockoff then procs our Culber Berry, and at just below half health, we can Psychic to Oko the Paradoxmon and claim the 6th badge. With the ability to use Surf, we can now pick up a few more encounters. Our first is a useless Smeargle, but then we catch Phanpy, which evolves into Donphan, Lycanroc, Scolipede, Gogoat, and Tadbulb evolving into Bellibolt. As we try to enter the Pokemon Mansion, we're stopped by May, who wants to battle us after hearing so much from Brendan. She leads a Solrock, which sets up Stealth Rock as Titan Mega Evolves and Heavy Slams the Sun down to its Focus Sash. Now on an Earthquake, I bring Claydol in, and after surviving a second, we can Rapid Spin the rocks away and pick up KO number 1. Now I pivot through Titan to Executor on Waterfalls, but I had forgotten that Relicanth holds a Choice Band, so I should have saved Cop's HP and went straight to solo. Regardless, we kill with Giga Drain and recover all our health, then Flygon hits the field. Screamtail then nullifies Draco Meteor and outspeeds on the following turn for an Ice Beam knockout. Riot can neutralize Manectric's electric attack, so May actually hard swaps to Breloom as I Earthquake. Starscream can then come in and be unaffected by Spore thanks to safety goggles, then Aeroblast for a kill. With the Electric Dog back on the field, we go to Gastrodon, who one-shots with Earthquake. Now May is just down to her Blaziken, which will Mega Evolve this turn. Gastrodon isn't strong enough to one-shot, so the starter sets up a Swords Dance, hangs on through Earthquake, and now at +1 speed, it'll be the fastest thing on the field. I go to Rocker, who takes a +2 close combat well thanks to its 4x resistance. Here's where I messed up. The AI should always use Flare Blitz, since that's the only move that kills Screamtail. The recoil would also win the battle for me, but instead of swapping back to Riot, who would have lived, I just stayed in, ate the move, and lost potentially my best Pokemon. Life really is give and take though. We lost Screamtail, but our mansion encounter is Mankey, who evolves twice into the powerhouse that is Annihilate. Now it's time to battle Jasmine to get an Assault Vest. She has 3 potential teams we need to cover, but Ninetales does a great job against most of her Pokemon. We end up facing off against Team 3, so I can Calm Mind as Fortress sets up rocks. After Flamethrower brings it down to Sturdy, the bug also sets up spikes, but next turn we get the knockout. At +1, Flamethrower destroys Melmetal, Metagross, Magnezone, and Lucario. Aggron also has Sturdy if it doesn't Mega Evolve, so in order to cover, I click Will-O-Wisp so we survive Earthquake. Now we're free to fire off one last Flamethrower to complete the QB sweep. Another optional fight against Price will get us a Choice Scarf, so let's jump in. He leads Jinx as I Volt Switch with Miles into Ninjask. His Chesto Berry wakes him up from a Lovely Kiss, but as I go for First Impression, Glalie is swapped in. I make a big mistake here going for U-turn, completely forgetting that Mega Glalie has Refrigerate, so Dart goes down to an Ice-type Fake Out. Ninetales then comes in, gets its illusion popped by Double Edge, but can then take the kill with Flamethrower. Baxcalibur is next out, and as I switch to Axel, it hits a massive Glaive Rush. I accidentally had the dragon as burned in my calculator, so I thought Axel could take 2. Since he obviously can't, I'm forced to Mach Punch and then sack our last Storm Drainer to an Icicle Crash. Zebstrika's Ice Beam just isn't enough to take Baxcalibur out, so now it gets the +1 attack and speed with Dragon Dance. For some reason, Price withdraws after setting up, so our next Ice Beam does some chip to Arctozolt. I swap Wilson in on Bolt Beak, then as I go for Earthquake, the AI switches again to Cloyster. It's back to Miles on a Shell Smash, and a held White Herb means there are no drawbacks to this setup. Cloyster likely could have swept my team, but again, there's an incomprehensible pivot, so our Thunderbolt hits Arctozolt. I go back to Donphan on Bolt Beak, and this time EQ connects on a Walrein switch in. Bellibolt with Desolate Land is my Walrein answer, popping my held Petra Berry with Toxic as I swap in. Now we can Power Charge as the Walrus misses Toxic, rests, and goes down a few turns later. Arctozolt then gets insane luck, flinching us on back-to-back icicle crashes so we can't Volt Switch out. Then on the hard swap to Zebstrika, we're met by a crit Bolt Beak. Predicting a low kick, I go back to Donphan, survive Freeze Dry the following turn thanks to a Yachi Berry, and finally kill this thing with Earthquake. I do get Poly in on an attempted Waterfall from Cloyster, which the sun evaporates, but Bellybolt still needs to get sacked here. Miles can now come back in, Thunderbolt for a kill, then Volt Switch against Jinx to bring in Ninetales. Unfortunately, we also need to sack our Firefox to make sure we get out of this battle alive, so after she goes down to Psyshock, Miles can Thunderbolt and Ice Beam the Baxcalibur for the win. After that absolutely atrocious showing, we now need to deal with Blaine's gym trainers. Against the first one, I protect turn 1 when I needed to turn 2, and Weird Ear pays the price, dying to a crit knockoff. With the carnage over, let's see if we can go deathless against Blaine. He leads Armor Rouge as I go with Boom. After changing the weather to sand and living through an armor cannon, I can bring Lycanroc in for his debut. An Assault Vest plus the special defense boost to rock types from the weather easily let us eat Armor Cannon, and the lead's Focus Sash is broken by Sandstorm. Rock Slide draws first blood, then the Fire Leader goes to his Typhlosion with Blazing Soul, an ability that makes Fire type moves priority. Eruption does 80 damage to Mirio on a switch and triggers our Steam Engine to make us insanely fast. Rock Slide finishes the Johto starter, getting an unnecessary crit, then Slitherwing hits the field. I protect turn 1 in case First Impression is being used, but after seeing close combat, we can easily drop the Bug Fighting type with Dual Wing Beat. Blaine doesn't have a great answer to Archeops, opting for Executor, who's KO'd by U-Turn. I blindly go to Glamora as Charizard comes in, who will Mega Evolve and reset the Sun, so I immediately Sandstorm, but do take decent damage from Dragon Pulse. I'm not sure why the weaker Flamethrower was used next turn, but we one-shot with Power Gem, then take the final Pokemon Scovillain down with Sludge Wave for our 7th badge. We get one more encounter now in Cerulean Cave, which turns out to be a Gourgeist. On our way to battle Giovanni one last time, Archer and Ariana stop us for back-to-back fights without healing. Archer is first, leading Mamoswine as I send out Toxicroak. Po-Boy fakes out, but as I click close combat, we see a Mimikyu swap to negate it. I stay in and Poison Jab to bust the Ghost Fairy's disguise, but it does get a free Swords Dance off. Next turn I go to Titan on yet another Swords Dance, but at +4 the Alolan still can't take our elephant down as we retaliate with a Heavy Slam to kill. Time to deal with an old nemesis, Mega Houndoom. I protect the Scout as the Hellhound Megas, then go to Assault Vest Annihilate, who unluckily gets burned by Flamethrower. This means we aren't going to have the damage output we need to kill in one hit, and as a result, Seance is going to have to be sacked. Sucker Punch brings us into the yellow as close combat does just over half, and we take Burn Chip. Had I switched on a Sucker Punch, we wouldn't have had to sack, but since multiple moves killed, the AI picked randomly, and this was the safest play. Now Toxicroak can come back in, take a lot of damage from Flamethrower, but get the KO with a CC of her own. My Durant answer is Noivern being hit hard by Iron Head, but because of the position I'm in, I think another Mon needs to die. I let Noivern drop to Ice Shard, then bring Po-Boy back in for one more Flurry of Fists, but we're not out of the woods yet. We immediately get thrown into the battle with Ariana, leaving Hatterene against our injured Frog. She still has enough strength to get a kill with Fake Out followed by Poison Jab, then Honchkrow comes in. Glamora now hits the field on a not very effective Drill Peck, it gets brought into the yellow by Superpower, but then a single Power Gem gets the KO. Mawile is next, so I protect the Scout for one turn as it tries to Sucker Punch. Sadly, as I switch to Donphan, we're iron-headed for half our health, but thanks to adaptability, we can run Jolly to outspeed and still one-shot with Earthquake. This just leaves Rhyperior, but because of a weakness policy, I can't use a super effective move unless it one-shots. I protect the Scout, and trusting that I'll see another Ice Punch, I go to Glamora. She just hangs on, and due to Rhyperior's terrible Spadef and 4 times weakness to Grass, Blessing can fire off an Energy Ball for the win. This next battle could be the toughest one in the game. It's another double battle with a partner, this time being Lance, as we take on Giovanni. The trick here is that he has a Mewtwo, but once you get its health to 0, it Mega Evolves to Mewtwo Y and gets fully healed. I planned for this fight until I legitimately lost my mind, so let's see how it goes. He leads Tapu Lele and Scrafty as I send out Lock Kicks, and Lance leads Dragapult. Thanks to Imposter, we transform into the Island Guardian, and a held choice scarf will make us faster. Psychic terrain goes up thanks to Lele's Surge, so Scrafty does eat a Psychic Seed, but that shouldn't matter too much. Turn 1, I lock into Moonblast and hit the Tapu Lele for enough damage that Dragapult can finish it with Shadow Ball. Then Scrafty unexpectedly knocks my Choice Scarf off instead of using the move on Dragapult for super effective damage and to get rid of its Focus Sash. That single knockoff may cost me the whole battle. I can't swap into my Toxicroak or Claydol in the back yet, so Dragapult Shadow Balls Mewtwo. It hits hard with Expanding Force, getting a crit on the Ghost Dragon, and our Moonblast somehow doesn't bring it into its transformation, even though the calcs say it always should. Now that Dragapult drops, Lance brings out Salamence, who Mega Evolves, but I unfortunately have to let Lock Kicks go down to Mewtwo's Expanding Force. Hyper Voice then triggers the transformation and does some chip to Scrafty, but the Dark Fighting type just ends the dragon with Ice Punch. I have to go to Po-Boy now to change the terrain, and since she's equipped with the Grassy Seed, she also gets +1 defense. This turn I fake Mewtwo out, but Dialga targets Scrafty with Body Press instead of damaging the legendary further. Thanks to a randomly rolled multi-scale, our legendary doesn't take too much from Drain Punch, but it's just enough to stop its leftovers and terrain recovery from reactivating the ability. I have to protect this turn, and I'm surprised to see Expanding Force still hits both of us without Psychic Terrain. Dialga KOs Scrafty, which makes things a little safer for my Claydol in the back as Celesteela comes in. Mewtwo now uses the single target new move Soul Robbery, then Dialga and Celesteela trade Flamethrowers. On the following turn, Mewtwo Flamethrowers boom, Dialga KOs Celesteela, and my big brain strat is to use Power Split, averaging Claydol's special attack with Mewtwo's to bring it down from 194 to 137, and myself up from 80 to that number. As Excadrill comes in, Giovanni doubles Dialga with Aura Sphere and High Horsepower, making this a 1v2. This is where I realize I can't win. Claydol takes massive damage from a double, and although we take Excadrill down, there's still a Tyranitar in the back. Soul Robbery finishes Claydol, then I let Toxicroak fake out and Sucker Punch the Mewtwo before we finally wipe to a High Horsepower plus Soul Robbery. I'm still really happy with the strategy I came up with and decided to run the battle back the same way just to test my success rate. I did this fight 5 more times, and each time I won, 3 deathless and twice only losing Lock Kicks. The main differences were that in any other battle, the Scrafty never knocked off my Choice Scarf, and Mewtwo was never the next Mon who switched in. It's tough that things went down the way they did, especially since I so badly wanted to beat this challenge on my first attempt, but I'm really proud of how far my first run made it, and I learned so much about how harder Pokemon AI operates. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you dropped a like. Also, this definitely won't be the last Radical Red is seen of me, so if you want to watch it all go down live, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when I'm streaming. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.